So if you don't want to spend over £1,000 on a flagship phone in 2024, then maybe you might be interested in something like this, the Xiaomi 14T Pro. The price on this is likely to start at around €800 at launch, and I'm making this video before the initial announcement, so that could change. If it does, I'll leave the launch day prices in the top pinned comment. So if this is more affordable than most of the flagships out there in 2024, does that mean it's not quite as good? And are there any aspects of the Xiaomi 14T Pro that might be better than some 2024 flagships? And if it is, how have they managed to keep that price low? Well, those are all things that I'm going to highlight as we go through this review. And it is worth mentioning, it does have some working AI on day one, so that's a win. And in regards to cameras, they have teamed up with Leica, so that's a pretty big deal too. And if you stick around for the camera section, we're going to play a little game, a blind camera comparison to see how good your eyes are when it comes to spotting the Xiaomi 14T Pro versus the Pixel 9 Pro XL versus the Galaxy S24 Ultra. Anyway, that's the intro. Now let's get into it. The color options here are Titan Grey, Titan Blue and Titan Black. The frame on the 14T Pro this year is constructed from an upgraded aluminium alloy, and Xiaomi say it's 116% more resilient than the 13T Pro from last year. The edges are flat, the display glass is also flat. They don't actually disclose what glass they're using here, so this could be one of the areas where they've saved some money, but the good news is they do pre-install a screen protector. It is IP68 water and dust resistant. The buttons are all located down the right hand side of the phone, just like a Samsung Galaxy device. And Xiaomi have added a really nice texture to the power key, so that's nice.
Nice.
It does have stereo speakers and a dual SIM tray. Unfortunately, no expandable memory though. Storage options here are ranging from 256 gig, 12 gig RAM, all the way up to 1 terabyte, and it's the top tier RAM as well. It's DDR5X, and the version of the storage that they use is also top tier. It's UFS 4. There's also an IR blaster on top, which most flagships don't seem to have these days. The back panel has this kind of sparkly look to it, and it feels quite grippy. And the best thing about this is it's not a fingerprint magnet. And on the topic of fingerprints, it does have an in-display optical fingerprint reader. Now, this could be another area where Xiaomi have saved some money, because they could have gone with a more expensive ultrasonic fingerprint reader like the S24 Ultra, for example, or even a 3D face unlock like the iPhone. But optical fingerprint scanning is super fast and is very secure nowadays. Anyway, moving on to the display. If you thought it was kind of crazy that the non-Pro iPhone 16 in 2024 is rocking a 60Hz panel, well, this display just makes matters worse for the iPhone, because it's a 6.7 inch 144Hz AMOLED with 12-bit colors and 446 pixels per inch, and a peak brightness when measured using a small part of the display of 4,000 nits. On paper, this doesn't just defeat the base model of the iPhone 16, but it also actually one-ups a lot of more expensive phones released in 2024. It does support HDR10, and it is officially Dolby Vision certified. And yes, it does look good. And there's also a bunch of eye protection features built in, like 3840Hz PWM dimming. This is designed to reduce the flicker on the screen. Also, there's a bunch of TÜV Rheinland eye comfort features here. The screen to body ratio here is 93.3%, and despite the very impressive specs on paper, the fact that Xiaomi didn't go with an LTPO display here is probably another area where they've managed to save some money and keep the price down. And if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, an LTPO panel can actually slow right down to just 1 Hz to save power, and then gradually raise up when needed, all the way up to that 144 Hz, for example. Whereas this particular display, from what I can tell, just jumps between 60 Hz, 120 Hz, and then 144 Hz at its peak. So that means it's probably not quite as efficient as a more expensive LTPO panel. Anyway, now let's move on to batteries and charging. So the battery cell size in the Xiaomi 14T Pro is 5000 milliampere, and that is very much in line with most flagships these days, and actually even above some of the more popular ones. Charging speed via the wire is well above average at 120 watts. They call this hypercharge, and it can actually take the phone from 0 to 100% in less than 20 minutes. And the wireless charging speed is above average at 50 watts. But of course, you would need a compatible charging mat for that. And there are some restrictions on that kind of charging speed in certain countries, but you could always import one if you want to. And something that I almost forgot to mention is there is no charger in the box this time. So if you want that full 120 watts charging speed, you need to get yourself a charger. And I can definitely recommend some. I'll link a video at the end for some chargers that I personally use. Now, another cost-cutting measure here on the Xiaomi 14T Pro might be the fact that it doesn't appear to have reverse wireless charging. For me, that's not a deal breaker because I basically never use it unless it's an absolute emergency. Let me know your thoughts on that. So that's the power. Now let's talk about the speed. Flagship chips are expensive, and Xiaomi, instead of going with the more popular flagship chip for Android devices from Qualcomm, this year they've opted to go with the MediaTek equivalent. It's called the Dimensity 9300 Plus. It is a 4nm chip, just like the flagship from Qualcomm. And Xiaomi say the multi-core performance is up 37%. And it's all well and good just to talk about it, but let's see how it stacks up in a head-to-head benchmark with the S24 Ultra and the Pixel 9 Pro, which both rock different flagship chips. So here are the results of that. So if you just jump to this timestamp in the video, hey, what's up? Hello. Let me introduce you to the Xiaomi 14T Pro's stove. Okay, I'm only joking. But the reality is there's a lot of firepower here with the triple camera setup with its Leica Sumilux optical lenses. You get 5 focal lengths with these 3 cameras, and interestingly, the primary sensor is not a Sony, it's not a Samsung sensor, it's actually from OmniVision. They call it the Light Fusion 900, and I heard it's also sometimes known as the Light Hunter 9000, which is a much better name in my opinion. Anyway, there's also a 50 megapixel telephoto and a 12 megapixel ultra wide here, and the selfie camera is 32 megapixels. Now, that Light Hunter OmniVision sensor is said to be a beast in low light scenarios. And here's a question for you. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Well, I do whenever I go downstairs for a glass of water at night and the dog is constantly trying to bite my feet. Anyway, that was a Batman joke. If you're not a Batman fan, it probably won't make sense, but it might in a minute, because now it's time for the blind camera comparison test. Do your best and see if you can spot the Xiaomi 14T Pro.
We become the masters of our own darkness. From the darkness we start to see glimpses of clarity. Clarity is a double-edged sword. We paint with the colours of our emotion. What emerges can be beautiful, terrifying, or utterly insane.
what did the Xiaomi 14T Pro do in your opinion? And be honest. Anyway, two concerns I know a lot of people have when switching to a new phone is how much bloatware is there to uninstall on day one, and how different is the UI to what I'm used to. Well, here is all of the pre-installed stuff. I moved it all over to this one page. So straight out of the box, this is kind of what you can expect. Now I can't lie, this amount of bloatware is quite frustrating at first, but you do need to keep something in mind when it comes to this. Xiaomi do subsidize the cost of their phones by charging these companies. So if there was no bloatware, this means you would be paying more from your own pocket. On the flip side of that, if you have some bloatware, the companies like Booking.com, Booking.yeah are covering some of the costs for you. Now in terms of the UI from Xiaomi, they've done a good job of cleaning it up recently with their new Hyper OS, and this is a skin on the Android 14 operating system. So anyone who's used Android 14 will be right at home here. The navigation, the notification styles, the control panel will all feel very familiar to you. Also, Xiaomi has borrowed some UI aspects from iOS. So if you are an iOS user thinking about the Xiaomi phone, it won't be too dissimilar to what you're used to. And overall, it is a nice operating system and there is tons of customization tweaks to play with. So that's always good. And check this out, they have started rolling out some AI, such as the AI interpreter, AI notes, as well as the circle to search feature. All of this is powered by Google's Gemini. And there is one AI feature here that's really awesome. I wish it was available on more phones, and that is the generative expand on photos. So unfortunately, because this is a pre-release phone that I have here, and I'm making this video prior to the launch, I don't have all of the AI tools at my disposal right now, but rumors suggest that it will be available for launch. So if you guys do want a follow-up video on this phone, just let me know. I appreciate you guys for watching this one. If you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man, and I will see you in the next one. Don't be late.